Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living in the heart of Las Cruces. If you could bring your conversations to an end. Find your way to a seat. I'm Sarah Benson. This is my husband, Doug. We're going to start you off with a couple of songs, and I invite you to stand if you're able and if you would like to. Yeah, and we're just going to celebrate being together on this beautiful Sunday morning.
Yes, I am here to love. Yes, I am here to serve. Yes, I am here to be the love of God. Yes, I am here to love. Yes, I am here to serve. Yes, I am here to be the love of God, my God. And I know forevermore that I am loved. Yes, I know forevermore that I am loved. Yes, I am here to learn. Yes, I am here to live. Yes, I am here to be the love of God. Yes, I am here to learn. Yes, I am here to live. Yes, I am here to be the love of God, my God. And I know forevermore that I am loved. Yes, I know forevermore that I am loved. Yes, I am here to love. Yes, I am here to serve. Yes, I am here to be the love of God, my God, of God, my God, of God, my God. Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes our prayer. Our thoughts are prayers, the tools that we create with. Our thoughts are prayers, that spirit resonates with. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of mindfulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes our prayer. And every thought becomes our prayer.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Teresa Valenzuela, and I'm a practitioner here at the Center for Spiritual Living in the heart of Las Cruces, where our vision is a world in loving partnership for the good of all. Welcome to anyone who's visiting for the first time. Please help yourself to a packet of information. There's packets at either exits. There is a gift certificate to our amazing bookstore in there as well. So fill out the front, and there's the bookstore people right over there. And fill out the front form with an email if you'd like to be added to our amazingly informative email newsletter list. And it says here, be sure to read the newsletter. Once again, I want to thank our amazing treasure cell workers. If you'll stand up we have Donna here today, Laura, Kayanne. If you'll stand up, we are just so, anyone else that helped with the treasure sale, stand up, stand up. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for being, I can't imagine how many hours of volunteer, a lot. So it is the financial support we got from all of you, but the hours that you put in is unimaginably appreciated. So thank you very much. And our next big event here is our Craft and Bake Goods Sidewalk Sale. And Deb Taylor Russell, can you raise your hand? There she is, the goddess of crafts and good food. And so that's going to happen here next Saturday. And we are already, you're welcome to bring in your goods that you would like to donate to the sale this week, Monday through Thursday from 10 to 2. Friday, I believe that our dear Lisa will be here from 2 to 4 to collect and to set up for Saturday morning. Some of us will be here at 8 o'clock to prepare out in front of the center for our 8:30 grand opening of the first annual winter holiday craft and baked goods sidewalk sale right here. So if you would just like to be to participate and would prefer purchasing the goods, we will be here on Saturday. And I believe Lisa will be here Sunday. If there are any leftovers, you might want to come here on Saturday. Make sure that you're in with the goods. So thank you, Deb, and Mom Patty, for all the work you've done, and Michael too. It takes a whole family. Thanks to all of you who attended our town hall meeting. We received lots of great ideas. There are clipboards in the social hall. If any of those ideas catches your eye and your heart and you would like to see them manifested within our community, please sign up. Let's see. I also read through some of our, Reverend Bonnie, I believe, read through some of our visioning prior to not meeting in person during COVID, and she's added a list of those ideas to the table as well, because there is no timeline in that of spirits. They're hanging on the bulletin board, not on the table, so look at that. Our next potluck will be November 19th, which is next Sunday, and our next town hall will be January 21st, 2024. November 26th, the last Sunday of the month, is Sacred Service Sunday, and we will be signing 100 holiday cards for our dear friends who are associated with the New Mexico Southwest Alzheimer's Association. We did that last Christmas, and Penny, who is now the only person who works with that association down here in Cruces, shared a story where she went into a person's house and received one of our holiday cards and was still hanging up on the refrigerator, and that client of hers said, "Look at all the friends I have." So if you think that one card cannot make a difference, I don't want to say you're wrong, but we are powerful. So we will have 100 Christmas cards here for little messages to be signed on the 26th. And also we have a new November Love Wins project, and we will be collecting items. New Mexico Southwest Alzheimer's will also be making gift bags. If you remember, we made 100 gift bags for veterans in July. Well, now we are participating with the community. There is a list of items. They are targeting, their goal is 50 for homebound seniors who are part of the Alzheimer's Association, and 50 for a assisted living home here in Las Cruces. So our cards will go within those bags, and then whatever we have here will be part of those gift bags that Penny will put together. We filled this can up 3 times in November to take to the food pantry for the juvenile probation office. We are a powerful lot right here in Las Cruces, New Mexico, Center for Spiritual Living in the Heart. And just continuing on, we believe in that power of prayer. That was a beautiful song. Every thought is a prayer. And so we call that spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. There are prayer requests in the seats right in front of you. If you'd like to fill one out, the prayer circle meets on Tuesday afternoons over Zoom, and we pray with you. And we would love to have your requests be a part of our circle on Tuesday. And there's also gratitude cards in that pocket. So let us know how those prayers have rolled out in your life, how you yourself have done your own prayer work, and your life has been blessed. We'd love to know that. And we do meet with the 4 local New Thought communities. We pray with you. And there's this amazing website for our center with an amazing prayer. Thank you, Bob, for always being our IT person. Button where you can just send your prayer work in through our website. We receive it. It's anonymous, and it'll be part of our prayer circle as well. So I believe that I've talked very quickly to get in everything, and last but not least, I would like to thank the veterans who may be within this room or on Zoom or in your family for the time and love that they have given in their service through the armed forces. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And now it is time for song, silence, and prayer.
held in love, I'm held in peace. God
So I invite each and every one of you to join me and step into that space and place of gratitude, bringing into our hearts already the wonderful blessings that we've experienced this morning, regardless of what the appearance may be, knowing that each and every breath we take blesses us, blesses those around us, and it just radiates out into the world. And so we come together today so blessed with Reverend Bonnie's words and heart and love and commitment to our community. We're blessed with the music, and we're blessed with each and every one of us. And so I just say, yes, I am ready to receive, and I am ready to give, and I am ready to be. Ever so grateful, ever so thankful, and just sinking and knowing that this day has already rolled out in that magnificence, unfolding, evolving, and manifesting in the beautiful perfection of the one spirit, infinite mind, creative heart. And so it is. Today's reading is from the Science of Mind, little book, on page 497. Quench not the spirit. We are not to be ashamed of our trust in God, nor are we to deny the inner light that lights every man's reason to the ultimate reason of all. Spiritual emotion is common to all people and is one of the ways through which the Spirit works. When this emotion is blocked, it hinders the currents of life from flowing, and the result is stagnation. In psychology, we learn that congested emotions are disastrous to health. If this is true of the physical emotions, how much more must it be true of those higher emotions, which are altogether spiritual? What is true on one plane is true on all. There are ascending scales of being, and each reproduces from the lowest to the highest, each plane partaking of the nature of the whole, since all are in and of it. If physical emotions unexpressed can congest the subjective thought, producing mental and physical confusion, and they can, it follows that unexpressed spiritual emotions can congest the soul and hinder a more complete flow of life through the individual. This is in accordance with law. If the artist suppressed all spiritual emotion, they would never be a great artist. In art, we call this emotion temperament. In oratory, we call it inspiration. And in purely spiritual things, we call it illumination. Somewhere the soul must stand naked to the truth if it is to receive it in all its fullness. There must be an outlet as well as an inlet if there is to be continual flow. Quench not the spirit, but let the intellect decide to what the emotions are to respond. This is a secret of a well-balanced life. Prove all things, hold fast to that which is good. We are not to be afraid of strange ideas or doctrines, but are to prove them and accept only that which is true. We are to analyze, dissect, and investigate until we know the truth, and then hold fast to it. In this way, all advance must come, whether in science, philosophy, religion, or anything else. And so it is.
Okay, I hope we're okay with strange songs too. This might be a wee bit scandalous, if so, I apologize. Maybe, kinda. So, you just keep giving me such difficult topics. Anyway, this is a song about the voices that are constantly giving us advice or criticism or telling us that we're doing it wrong, and they're, no matter what we do, really, it's both external and, for me, certainly internal as well. I've got a lot going on inside that's like, you're not doing this right. So anyway, this song is called Follow Your Arrow, and it's by Casey Musgraves.
If you save yourself for marriage, you're a bore. If you don't save yourself for marriage, you're a horrible person. If you won't have a drink, then you're a prude. But they'll call you a drunk as soon as you down the first one. If you can't lose the weight, then you're just fat. But if you lose too much, then you're on crack. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. So you might as well do just whatever you want. So make lots of noise, kiss lots of boys, or kiss lots of girls, if that's something you're into. When the straight and narrow gets a little too straight, climb up the joint,
Or don't.
just follow your arrow wherever it points. Follow your arrow wherever it points. If you don't go to church, you'll go to hell. If you're the first one on the front row, you're a self-righteous son of a can't win for losing. No, you'll just disappoint them. Just cause you can't beat them, don't mean you should join them. So make lots of noise, kiss lots of boys, or kiss lots of girls, if that's something you're into. When the straight and narrow gets a little too straight, roll up a joint,
Or don't.
just follow your arrow wherever it points. Follow your arrow wherever it points. Say what you think, love who you love, 'cause you just get so many trips round the sun. Yeah, you only live once.
Maybe.
So make lots of noise, kiss lots of boys, or kiss lots of girls, if that's something you're into. When the straight and narrow gets a little too straight, roll up a joint,
Or don't.
just follow your arrow wherever it points. Follow your arrow wherever it points.
Okay. You never know what Sarah's going to find. Perfect. Thank you. That's great, because that levity is what we need as we move into the topic today. Thank you so much. So I'm Reverend Bonnie, the community spiritual leader here, and I know I sound a little different. Talk about the profane, the way to get me to sound sexy, I guess, is to have a little something going on. That's why I tested this morning. I do not have COVID, but I am masking to protect the rest of you from whatever this craziness must be. I had no voice on Friday, and I told Sarah this was going to be a sing-only Sunday if I didn't get it back. So she got saved from that piece. Anyway, We are talking about the mundane, sacred, and profane, so it was a perfect song. And a few weeks ago, I visited Hillsboro and visited a little town west of that called Kingston, New Mexico. And there I saw the picture, or actually I saw this street sign, Virtue Street crossing with Main Street. And that just cracked me up. I thought, how perfect. That's where the sacred and the mundane cross, right there in Kingston, New Mexico, on Virtue Street and Main Street. So last week, Yvette kicked this off for us, and I think she did an okay, average job on talking about the mundane, don't you think? Actually, I have to admit, when I wrote that, and even when I say it, I feel bad because I think she did a great job. But she was trying to help us to understand that the mundane is okay, that the average is okay. It's not something terrible, even though some of us were told that when we were growing up, that we had to do more than the average. So that was her point. And so if you missed her talk, I encourage you to see it, watch it on YouTube, because I think she did a great job helping us accept the fact that the mundane is just okay. It's perfect for us. It's where we are. Another definition of mundane is of this earthly world rather than of the heavenly or the spiritual one. And so as we think about our teaching, one of the things that it's rooted in is the teaching of Jesus that says, as above, so below, or on earth as it is in heaven. And so part of what she was saying to us, and I think part of the reason that this is the focus this month, is to realize that it's very hard to separate out the mundane from the sacred and the profane. That's why I love that street sign, because they crossed, they connected. And so I was thinking about those streets, and I was thinking what Ernest Holmes said in the reading today, each plane partaking of the whole. There's all different levels, but it's all connected. And so I started thinking about all the different things that we consider mundane or that we consider sort of average or normal, and how with the intention of how it's used, they become sacred. I thought about water that we drink every day, how it's used in baptism, how Jesus washed people's feet with water as sacred service. Tobacco, which we have all kinds of issues with in our culture, in the Native American culture is seen as sacred, as the first sacred plant that was given to the indigenous people. And it's used as an offering to the Creator and used in ceremony. Bread and wine become communion in some Christian churches. So the intention behind, or the dedication behind the mundane, is what helps it move into the arena of sacred, and it's hard to separate that out. So I'm thinking this month about what would it take for every action that we do to have that intention, to have it be done with the intention of the sacred, seeing it as sacred, recognizing the sacred within it. So it's with this idea and this intention of looking at the combination or how they come together, the mundane, the sacred, and the profane, that I want to take us back 2 weeks ago when I was doing the Stump the Minister Sunday, because I ended up with a stack of questions that didn't get answered. And when I looked through those questions, I realized they fell into 3 categories. There was kind of the mundane, the sacred, and the profane. So I thought, why not address them today and finish answering those questions, looking at them through that lens of that category that they might fall into. Now, one of the things that I did was reread all of them, and I realized that I kind of blew off one of those questions because I thought it said, can you speak to science of mind? And I thought, well, what do I do every Sunday? But that wasn't the way the question was written, so I need to readdress that. The question was, can you talk about the science in science of mind? Ah, now that makes a little more sense. And so as we finish up, we just wrapped up from Whence We Came, which is very similar to the Roots class, if any of you have taken that. We studied the people that Ernest Holmes studied. And so looking at someone like Troward, he talks about science and the science. It's often addressed as that, not even including the word religious, right? And he was looking at how the physical and the mental came together, how the mental influences the physical. Quimby was studying how mind can work toward healing, how we can heal with our mind. And Mary Baker Eddy, who founded Christian Science, had a healing with Quimby, studied what he did, and then developed her form, which she called Christian Science. Emma Curtis Hopkins, who was one of the people we call the teacher of teachers, so Ernest Holmes studied under her, the Fillmores who started Unity studied under her. She developed and she wrote the book called Scientific Christian Mental Practice. And then from her, Melinda Kramer and Nona Brooks developed divine science, and Ernest Holmes called his teaching religious science. So the word science is throughout all of this sort of family tree that we have within New Thought. So one of the questions that was asked of me was, did Ernest Holmes consider himself a minister, or was he referred to as a minister? So just to inform you, he was an ordained divine science minister. That was news to me. We just learned that in this class. So that answers another one of the questions that I missed. So why science? Well, there's a lot of different reasons that I think of as to why we call the word science is in there. And part of it is because we're working with provable spiritual laws. Laws that when you practice them, they're going to work the same for you as they do for me or for anyone else. So the idea is that you can test them. You can work with them in your own life and see how they work. And every one of us are challenged to prove this for ourselves. We're challenged to experiment with these laws, with these principles, and see how they work. This is not a teaching of blind faith. I'm telling you it, so do it. That's not what we do. It's here's what we've experimented with so far, try it out, see what works, and keep growing this, keep moving this forward. In the Science of Mind magazine this month under November, on page 36, the author of the Daily Guides, who's Reverend Sally Robbins, said, "A former teacher encouraged me to always be my own laboratory." And that's what we're encouraged to do. Be our own laboratory, constantly be practicing and experimenting with these things on our own and putting the principles to work, not just speaking them, but actually putting them to work in our lives. So from the text, this is just a short piece of what Teresa just read to us. Prove all things, hold fast to that which is good. We are not to be afraid of strange ideas or doctrines, but are to prove them and accept only that which is true. We are to analyze, dissect, and investigate until we know the truth, and then hold fast to it. In this way, all advance must come, whether in science, philosophy, religion, or anything else. So the idea is that we take what we're hearing, reading, seeing, analyze it, dissect it for ourselves, figure out if it works, how it works, and then move forward with it. Prior to that, on page 219, Ernest Holmes said, "Since our spiritual understanding is not sufficient to enable us to mentally set bones, we call in a surgeon. Since we cannot walk on water, we take a boat. We can go only as far in our as our spiritual knowledge takes us. Principle is infinite, but we shall demonstrate its power only at the level of our concept of it. Every day we have the announcement from scientists that they have made new discoveries, laws which have always existed, but which have not yet been utilized." So the premise is, just as in science, in spirituality, we have laws that we might not have learned how to use yet. So Jesus was able to set the example of walking on water, but I love when Ernest Holmes said, if we can't walk on water, take a boat. We find ways to make these things work for us. And all of it involves science in some level, mixed in with our spiritual beliefs and our faith, however it is that it's exercised for us. Thank you. Teresa brought me water. So to delve into the answer to that question a little bit more, and really into the answer of all of these questions more, I encourage you to take classes, because we talk about all this stuff. We look at it, we analyze it even deeper. So I'm going to move from that question and start with what I would consider the mundane. So I had a few questions that fell under that category. This one said, I heard that part of the center's building is 100 years old. If this is correct, and if it is so, the building may qualify as a historical building in the National Registry of Historical Buildings. So it's not totally a question, but kind of is. They're asking if it is. And this is something that the board has looked at. And one of the things that happens if you register as a historical building is you are then bound to use certain color paint, bound to keep the place looking like the historical building that it is. And so the board, at the time we looked at this, decided we didn't want to be constrained in that way. We want to be able to augment the building, make it look how we want to out front, all of that. That being said, if somebody feels like we need to look at that more, you are more than welcome to research it and bring a report to the board and we can reconsider. But that was,
What would be the advantage?
The advantage would be that there might be some funds to help us do some things. But in order to do those things, we would have to make it look like the historical building. We can't change it in the ways that we're looking at possibly changing the front facade and things like that. And I know in Hillsborough, when I was there, their community building is on the historical register. They can't even change from the color green that the frame of the windows is. They have to use the same color green that was there from, back whenever. So that's the kind of thing, you have to keep it looking historic. So moving on from that mundane question, this one. Reverend Bonnie, where do you get your beautiful dresses? So, I will admit, when I read that, I laughed. And then I really started thinking about it because, like I said, the mundane and the sacred and the profane kind of all come together. So the first answer to that question is most of my clothes are actually from thrift stores or secondhand stores or like Ross Dress for Less where you get them cheaper. Yeah. Now, as a child, that was true also. And I grew up in a town where most people got their clothes at I. Magnon's and Saks Fifth Avenue, and my mother was getting mine at thrift stores. So it caused a lot of shame. I felt embarrassed. I was teased for the way I looked. So when I read this, I went, who thinks my clothes are beautiful? My whole life I had been teased for the way I dressed or the type of clothes that I wore. But when I thought about it some more, because like I said, I looked at this question and really thought about it, I realized that I still choose to purchase my clothes in this way, but now I have a different reason for it. It's part of my spiritual practice of abundance because I know that if I'm a good steward of my money, it will continue to flow, and I choose to give my money in other places than to high-end clothes stores. That's a choice I'm making. I also want to help the planet. And when I buy used clothes, I'm recycling, I'm upcycling, and in my mind, that's a way to help the planet. So now I'm making that conscious decision to buy my clothes in the same place that at one time I was very ashamed of and ridiculed for. And so I realized that on some level, and I would never have thought of this if whoever hadn't asked me that question, that something that originally caused pain and shame is now really part of my spiritual practice. It's part of how I choose to walk on this planet. And so thank you for that question. So moving on to the profane. I categorized the questions as profane when they had to do with when we're experiencing things that we might consider irreverent, not sacred, or even secular, different terms like that. When we say God is the sacred, so anything unlike God, we could say falls under profane. So if we say God is love and peace and joy, then unlike God is going to be hate and chaos and disharmony. Or not heavenly. We could also say it's hellish. So things that are not just mundane of this world, but that have pushed us to a place where we feel like we aren't even in the neutral zone, where we feel like we're not centered in God, where we feel like we're not able to be spiritual, where we feel like essentially we're in hell. So the song was perfect. I have a friend who says to me often, I'm not afraid of going to hell because I feel like I'm already there. Yeah, it's sad. And yet, it's poignant because Along those lines, part of the question was, what does Ernest Holmes teach about hell? And so part of that teaching is that as being part of the one, hell is not a thing in and of itself. Because the one is God, is the wholeness, is the sacred. So much like my friend was sort of alluding to, although not with the knowledge of this teaching, that hell is an experience that we might have on this plane, or that race consciousness might have created, we create within our own lives. It's not something like a place where we're going to go someday. So to answer the question more with Ernest Holmes' words, since it was about his teaching, he says, we arrive at the consciousness of unity only in such degree as we see that what we are looking for, we are looking with and at. Heaven is lost merely for the lack of a perception in harmony. Hell is the phantom abode of our morbid imagination. The phantom abode of our morbid imagination. Heaven and hell are states of consciousness. He also says, the great have not failed to recognize the appearance of evil, but they have separated the appearance from the reality. They have done away with evil as a cosmic entity. No devil, no hell, no torment, no damnation outside of one's own state of thought. Heaven and hell are states of consciousness. So hopefully that answers that question. So as we continue within the topic of the profane, then, I had two other questions that I put under here because they're questions related to when we're feeling that we're in that hard place, when we're being challenged in a way that we feel like we're not really able to stay in what we would consider the sacred. We're activated beyond the mundane and the ho-hum into a place of, this isn't working for me, I'm not happy, however. So the person asked the first question using the name of a politician, which I will not use from the platform, but you can fill in the blank with whatever politician or person in your life might suit this question. How do we acknowledge people like blank are part of the one? I would also word that, how do we acknowledge that those same people are part of the one with us, that we and them are one? Because that's part of our teaching. And the second question that I'm putting in here together, because I'm going to answer them together, is how do I keep myself calm and centered in our beliefs when I must interact with those that are negative and challenging? It's difficult. So that's why I put them under the profane, because we're kind of pushed into an arena where we're just not feeling like sacred in our approach to whatever's going on around us. Well, we know that the teaching of Jesus was love your enemies, love your neighbor as yourself. And Ernest Holmes said, one of the first things to do is to love everybody. If you have not done this, begin to do so at once. But I get it. Yeah, we're laughing because it's easier said than done. And the question that was posed to me was, how do we do that? How do we get to the place where we can love everyone and recognize our oneness and connection with them? So my first response to that is practice. And then we have to practice that choice. We practice loving everyone, and we practice remembering our oneness with them. And sometimes it's really challenging, like we're stuck in the profane, when things aren't going the way we would like to see them go, when we're in fear of loss, whether it's of our things, our rights, our way of life, when we feel like we're being excluded or we don't belong. That's when we're feeling really challenged, and when it can feel like we're experiencing hell already. And since the teaching is love everyone, or not the sin, I think what they're saying is love the person, but not their behavior. And that might work for us. That could be part of your practice, because we look at a human being and not necessarily love their behavior. But as someone who has had that said about me, I will share that it's not always a comfortable thing when someone considers it so. So they're going to just love me, but not my behavior. And it feels like they're not loving all of me. And so that just makes me feel more separate. are not included, even though they're saying, oh, I love you. But so it's a tricky thing. It can be part of your practice if it works for you, but it also can feel pretty yucky if you're on the receiving end of that, depending on what those behaviors are. Starting where we are, what does it mean to love? First of all, it doesn't mean we have to be all huggy, kissy, even warm and fuzzy. It's an opening of the heart to a different light. There are a lot of passages, whether we look at the Bible, the science of mind, other New Thought authors, even psychologists, write about how love and hate. So even if we just want to be physically well, it's important to figure out how to move into that space of love. And it's a lot easier for us to resolve issues when we come at them from not just within religion, but psychology and physical experiments and things like that. So how do we get there? I can share with you my practice, and I'll do that, but your practice. This is not about me telling you how everything's done, and that's true every single week I'm up here. It's for you to see these principles, for you to go, okay, do I believe we're all one? Do I believe practice this in my life? How can I experience this? So this is what I do, and I'm putting both those questions together because I work with them both together. So how do I love everyone and have negativity? How do I stay centered in my beliefs? So the first thing that I do, I skipped a page, is I remember to focus on my breath. The breathing is the easiest thing for me to go to. Focusing on my breath, turning inward. So like Yvette said last week, we can't look for the change to be out here. We can't look for the answers out here. We have to go within. So I take time to breathe and go within, because this is the only place I can make any change in reality. And so as I do that, I can calm myself enough to then think about the other person or people, whatever's going on. And so this is what I do. I imagine them as a child. I imagine them as an infant. And I tell myself, everybody was loved by somebody at some point in their life. And I try and imagine what it would be like to be that person who loved this being. Whether it's their mother, another caretaker, I assume somebody everywhere has someone who's loved them at some point. And so I imagine them in that state of lovability, of being a child, being an infant. And as I do that, I'm able to remind myself that everybody has been loved and everybody wants to be loved. And so I think Sarah's always saying, is this from Course in Miracles? Everything is a call for love or is an expression of love. So I try and remember, if their behavior doesn't look lovable, maybe it's a call for love. They need or want to be loved. As I do this shifts me into a place of compassion. From there, then, I also look for what I call the mirror in similar behaviors. I look at what in me behaves similar to that. Now, I might not be doing it to their extreme or in exactly the same way, but what in me is doing that same kind of behavior in some way? And I really look to clean that up first, to look at what needs to change in me, what needs to heal in me, what triggers that behavior in me, and in that process, I can relate a little more to that person. Again, it's not about condoning their behavior. It's seeing in me that this needs cleaned up here too, and starting with me. I consider what could cause those behaviors. And if the person is somebody in my life, I get curious with them from a place of compassion, not from judgment, but a place of compassion, starting to ask questions, figuring out, what's going on in your life? How is this, why and how is this being expressed? Now, if this person is a politician or another actor on the world stage that I can't have a conversation with, I'll do it in my mind. I'll try and imagine. I'll try and learn a little more about them, their background, what might have led to this type of behavior. My point is to move myself into a place of compassion. Even if I wouldn't call it love in that big sense, at least compassion for me is a first step. And from that place then, I can do my prayer work to see them filled with love. See them experiencing love the way I experience love, to feel whole. And I pray that they feel inner peace. Because my belief is that if people feel loved and have inner peace, they're going to behave lovingly and in peace. That their behaviors that are not peaceful or that are hurting others are done from a place of pain and fear. So I want to see them experience enough love and peace to move into different behavior. And the only way for that to happen is for me to see that. In my mind, I start putting that out there. That's what I want to see. I've practiced that with a supervisor I had a hard time with. This is something that has been part of my practice. So that's the kind of thing that I do. If somebody is constantly negative in my life, we've had this experience here, I've encouraged people to ask them, tell me the best part of your week. Or tell me what is the best thing that's happened to you today, as opposed to saying, how are you? Because then they can just start going off with all the negativity. I might say, I'd love to hear what is working in your life today. Instead of, how are you? Because again, I don't want to encourage the negativity that I don't want to listen to. So that's just part of my practice. And again, I'm not always there. It's a practice. But I consciously remind myself, when I see something, I'm one with them, so let's start looking at how I can resolve within myself so that I'm not pushed out of center in this experience. So the next question that I was asked is, talk to us about how to deal with being in the dark night of the soul. And I felt like, the dark night of the soul can feel like you're in hell, that experience in your consciousness. And my first thought was, this must be somebody who hasn't been listening to me for the last 3 years. Because I feel like that's all I've been doing, is sharing with you, since my son died, how it is I've been figuring out to manage this experience in my life. And this has been the darkest night of my soul. And so I will encourage whoever wrote that, if they hadn't seen what I said, the first talk after that happened was August of 2020. It's on YouTube. It's a whole talk on that, so go in there and look for it and listen. And many of my talks since then have looked at this question. How do I deal with this? How do I deal with staying positive through this experience? But I will summarize for all of you right now, in case this person hasn't been around for the last 3 years. So the first thing, the number one thing, and what that talk is about from back in August of 2020, is self-love. The importance of figuring out how to love ourselves. And the reason that I felt like that was important is because I feel like that was the one thing that was missing in my son's life. He was so loved by his family, his friends, and the people he worked with, but I don't think he had the self-love. And that was the missing link that caused him to take his life. And so I think self-love is utmost important. Because if we don't have self-love, we can't take in the love from all around us. And I use the analogy of a dry sponge. Have you ever tried to wipe up water with a dry sponge? It doesn't work very well. You have to get it moist, and then it absorbs. So self-love is moistening that sponge so we can take in the love that's all around us, that God is present through all the people in our lives that love us. But we have to have that self-love. And I was pushing the book, and I'll say it again, the book that is called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It, because it does. And I was reading that book at that time to try and help myself get through this, and I literally, anytime I was overwhelmed with grief or anger or shame, I would just pat my chest. I love myself, I love myself. It doesn't mean I felt it. I just kept saying it over and over. It was my mantra to help myself not go spiraling even further down into that dark night, so to speak. So that was the way I stopped those thoughts from going down. I would just sit there, I love myself, I love myself. Literally did that over and over and over and over. The second thing that I had to do was release control. The control had been taken anyway. What I thought I had control of was gone. And allow the people who did love me to circle around me. Practitioners who showed up in the moment and stayed with me. I had to allow that in. I allowed in the love of friends and family who would call, who sent food and flowers, and I was circled around. It was kind of amazing. And I wasn't totally 100% present to take it all in then. I can think back to it. It was amazing what this community did and how they circled around me. So I had to let that in and not push people away like I was inclined to do. I just wanted to hide and crawl under a rock. And I had to open myself enough to let that in. But I also had to disconnect when I needed to. I felt like sometimes I needed to be on all the time, and I couldn't do that. So I had to allow myself space in the silence and space alone. But I had to really look at, am I wanting this time alone because I'm being rebellious and wanting to wallow in my pain and I'm not letting people in, or do I need it to heal? And I did feel that sometimes I had to protect myself from what I called vultures and voyeurs, the people that really didn't know me well or really care about me as a person, but just kind of wanted to see how I was doing. You know, I couldn't deal with that at that point. So I allowed myself to protect myself from that and to take in and let in the people that really loved me. The fourth thing I did was take advantage of all the help that was offered. Therapy sessions that were offered through some office up in Albuquerque that I did online, a grief workshop, a practitioner who worked me through that from Arizona that just happened to cross my path. I did constantly journaling and talking when I could, more journaling, reading what I could, and just taking the time to really try and process through what had happened. And I will tell you, the process isn't done. I'm still doing this stuff. I'm still working on it, and that circles me back to I have to just keep telling myself I love myself. Do what in the moment is the most loving thing I can do. So some days I can deal with being out and about, and other days I need to be home in the silence and letting that be okay. And that's a new thing in my life, because I used to think I just had to do what everybody else wanted me to do. So that's how I've dealt with my dark night of the soul. And I hope if there's anything you can take from that, great. Otherwise, again, if you're in that space, what I do want to say is you're not alone. And we have practitioners, myself, and other people here that are willing to walk with you or sit with you. For me, the greatest help was somebody who would just sit in silence with me. I didn't want to hear spiritual platitudes. I didn't need anybody to talk to me. I didn't want to have to revisit what happened and say it over and over. Just sitting with me in silence was very healthy and helpful. So there are people here that can do that and are willing to do that. So if you're feeling that, please let us know so we can walk that with you. So the next question, do I need to go through a whole treatment every time I want to talk to God, or will God still hear me if I just have an ongoing conversation? So to me, there's two parts to that question. The first thing is when it says, when I want to talk to God, and will God hear me? And those words conjure up for me an idea of a God that's out here and me that's here. So that's, to me, is separation. And yet at the same time, Ernest Holmes wrote a book called Can We Talk to God? And the short answer is yes. So we've got the book, and you can read that. But the main thing that I want to say to this question is that we see God in and through as well as around. So yes, there's God out here, but there's God in and through us, moving in and through us. And so do we talk to ourselves? Yeah, you've heard me just mention all the ways I'm trying to talk to myself. Is there any way you can talk to yourself, even in your head, where you can't hear yourself? No, right? So God constantly hears you. Because when you're talking to God, you're talking to yourself, essentially. The God in you cannot not hear you. So that's the first part of the question for me. The second one, I'm going to ask you a question. You don't have to answer it, though. Why do we pray? Why do we do treatments? In traditional prayer, with God out here and me here, I'm trying to convince that God to do something for me. I'm begging that God to do something for me sometimes. Or I'm just chatting to that God, but trying to kind of make a good connection there, seeing me here, God there. I want this God to be benevolent to me. In treatment and affirmative prayer, if I'm talking to the God in here, the purpose of the prayer is to convince myself that I'm already one with that God. To remind myself that I'm already one with that God, and that I am worthy of receiving whatever it is I think I'm trying to convince this one out here. It's already here. I've already been given everything that I need. So I'm convincing myself what I need to do to reveal that truth in my life. So the treatment in prayer is about aligning myself with that God as opposed to convincing that God to align with me. Does that make sense? Okay. So the question then was, do I need to do all 5 steps? Well, sometimes yes and sometimes no. I say it depends on where you're at. So one of the questions that was also asked of me is, what is your practice to having the oneness experience? Well, the first 2 steps of a treatment are, 1, what is God? So we talk about what God is. And then 2, how I am one with that, and how everyone else in the scenario, in the situation, is one with that. So if I'm not feeling that oneness, then I need steps 1 and 2, and I need to stay there as long as it takes, contemplating that, talking myself through that, looking at all the different ways I can, as we do the denials and affirmations, whatever it takes to reach that place where I feel my oneness and my connection with Spirit, life, God, love, and everyone else. Then I move into step 3. And in step 3 is where I'm recognizing the good that I want to experience, the love that I want to experience, whatever it might be. Now, sometimes I'm feeling that connection, I can just jump right into that. Sometimes I don't use words. Sometimes I just picture my good. I feel it and just allow myself to revel in that feeling and move then into the 4th step, which is gratitude. And sometimes that's my daily ongoing conversation. I just constantly, thank you for that, thank you for that. Anything I can be thankful for, trying to remember to acknowledge it and be grateful. And the final step is release and let go. So I'm always reminding myself, let go and let God, just let it go. So sometimes it's a full prayer and sometimes it's just the situation. So, do you need the full thing? No. God's never going to stop hearing all that's going on in there because you and God are one, doing this dance together. Doing what those 5 steps, I often say, is a tool. They're the training wheels that help us realign ourselves with that truth so that we can remember it. So the last question puts all of this together, I think, and it is, what does New Thought say about why we are here? Again, I encourage you to take a class because I can only address this really quickly. My words, these are my words as to how I understand New Thought and what I've learned about why we are here, is that the creative energy, creator, life itself, wants to express and experience life in all of the diverse forms possible. Whether that's through humans, through plants, through rocks, through whatever. Creation wants to experience life as fully as it can. And so it's experiencing it through every single person, every single thing on this planet, all the planets, all the stars, all of it is the universe, is God creating and expressing. Ernest Holmes' words, it is the play of the universe upon itself. So that idea that the universe is creating and experiencing sort of all at the same time. So my conclusion that I've shared with you before, that I came to way back in one of my early classes, is that the reason I'm here is to give God a good time. I say I'm giving God a good time through me. So I consciously ask myself sometimes, is what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, giving God, love, light, the fullest and best expression possible? That's my rudder. So while God and Spirit and life is here having all these experiences, our challenge becomes to remember that truth of our being, to remember the God and love and life that is us expressing, and to heal any of the challenges that we experience by first recognizing that oneness, the unity, and then revealing the divine essence that's moving in and through us. So that's sort of it's a constant give and take, that constant flow. Many people, I think, throughout history, have discovered that experience of oneness. They've discovered how they can work with it, And they've tried to reveal that truth and teach that truth to us and tell us how it is that we can have that same experience. And so I would say that Jesus was not the first person to do that. He's someone that many of us are familiar with. And Ernest Holmes is not the last. And between them, there was a lot of other teachers, and since them have been a lot of other teachers. That ultimately, I take it back to, we need to discover within ourselves what works for us, how this stuff works in and through us. So the more we open to that, the more we can let that happen. And I answered that question from just me, and I think the question can be broadened to, why are we, the Center for Spiritual Living, why are we humanity here on this planet? And I would say that collectively we are here to help walk each other home. And home is where Virtue Street and Main Street crossed. To bring ourselves back to center. So I believe that we're here, that the Center for Spiritual Living provides a place where people can explore, can get exposed to new ideas, can find ways that they can reveal this inner truth and heal from within themselves, and where we can practice together all this stuff that I've just talked about, where we can do the work and the practice. It is the place where Virtue Street meets Main Street, and even that back alley. Even if people are experiencing the back alley or are lost on the back alley, they are welcome here because we are inviting them home. And so it is. Thank you, practitioners already surrounding the room. So I hope that answered your questions. If anyone wants to go in more depth with their question, feel free to make an appointment. I'd be happy to talk to you. And trust me, these practitioners love to share with you too and do the work with you. So let's just take that within. Centering into our heart space. That place within us, if we can see the crossroads where mundane and sacred and profane all mix, Virtue Street with Main Street. Knowing that we stand right in the center. We are an expression from that center. We are how it is that God wants to move in and through life as each one of us. And so in gratitude, we recognize the God in each other. We honor that. We seek to find the love within us that connects with the love within them, knowing that it's all one, that it's spirit moving in and through every aspect of creation. And so I'm grateful for this time, for this coming together. I'm grateful my voice came back. I'm grateful that Sarah sang us that wonderful song to help us move into a space of laughter, knowing that it is all about giving God a good time, seeing God's full expression in our lives. So we release this time together knowing that it is blessed and trusting that each one of us takes what we need as we move into this coming week and beyond. We just say together, and so it is. Thank you. Thank you, practitioners.
This song is a little more dignified. Oh, darn. Holy Now by Peter Mayer.
When I was a kid each week, on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time can't be done. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird, shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. It used to be a world out there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but now I walk it with a reverent air. Everything is holy now. Oh, holy now. Everything is holy now.
You're amazing.
So are you.
Perfect wrap up. Everything is holy now. Just keep singing that when you move out through the rest of the week. So now is the time when we consider giving back to the center, and we still have the plates at either door for people to put their offering in. And just bless it as you do, and know that 10% of everything that comes through here is going to bless beyond these doors this month to Las Esperanza Weed and Seed. And we are helping to provide coats and shoes to the youth that they serve. And there's more you can read about them on our website, but I'm going to let you read that. We're also collecting coats to give away since it's gotten colder. If you have any coats hanging around, warm clothes, mittens, hats, we'll put them out for people during the week. There's also food out there that somebody brought in that's free. If you know anybody who needs peanut butter, zucchini, milk, if the milk is still there, we're putting it out there. Our NA folks and AA folks are welcome to it as well. So we're just seeing things flow through here, and it's a beautiful thing. So let's say our blessing together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, in me. And so remember our service projects that are coming up as well. I'm going to have us move right to our closing song since it's already 1:15. Thank you for staying. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your patience. Let's stand and sing.
Let there be peace.
Let there be peace. Thank you.